Well, let's see. Where do we start? We're live. We're live without Alex today. Alex seems to be home sick. So I'm going to be your host today. I didn't really prepare a whole lot to talk about, but it is spring. So let's talk about that because income tax money is going to start rolling. And I'm just kind of curious, is anybody's business amped up yet? I don't know. I know that. What's up, Invasion? I know that this week's orders have been substantially more than last week, or the week before, or the week before that, or even the week before that. In fact, for a lot of weeks. It seems like this has been a long winter. So, what I'm curious about is everybody's business picking up? Or are some of you guys still struggling to find the work? That's a question a lot of people probably wonder. Actually, that's not really well, that is a question, just not the question everybody's wondering. A lot of people are probably wondering, the ones that are struggling to find the work are probably wondering, like, what do I do to get the ball rolling? And I can think of a couple of things. One, my favorite, because it's probably the easiest for target marketing, is Facebook advertising. Because if you have a business page, that has your tent company on it, and you have some video footage or things of that nature, or even some pictures, you can relatively inexpensively boost the posts with those pictures or videos and get them to all the people that not only like your page, but you can target their friends. And it is amazing how quick so many people in your immediate area will see you. Or you can just target to your general area and blast it to everybody right around you, which is kind of cool too. Google is similar. I haven't used a lot of Google. My wife uses Google and she likes it. I tried it once and I didn't do very well, but then again, I'm not a real creative marketer. So for me, it's a lot easier to take video or something and push that out there. Oh, yeah. So yeah, what's business look like for you guys right now? Anything changed over the last couple few weeks? Is the phone starting to ring? Are you starting to work more throughout the day? Because we are a little bit. I mean, I only have about a half a cart full today, so had two today. It's picking up. That's good. Yeah, we went a couple of years without a single $0 day at the tent shop, and this year over the winter we've actually had a couple, but they're still rare a lot of times. And one of the biggest things to keep your phone ringing and stay relevant is definitely to have your Google page set up. And it's not as easy as it used to be, but apparently it's more effective. But either way, you just need to set up a business page and verify it and have a brick and mortar. And that way, when people do search Google for window tint near me, your name populates the list and you'll get phone calls. But one thing for us is, our repeat business carries us pretty much through the winter and makes everybody get a paycheck. What do you say to small business owners that just hope and pray it gets better? Well, that's not a super effective plan. You, I mean, something has to happen there. You don't. If you just hope and pray it gets better, then you might want to count on your customers to talk about you, which means that it's still up to you to do something because you got to give your customers something to talk about. And just being the best in town is not enough for your customers to want to talk about you. There's got to be something about you that makes your customer remember you. The easiest thing to do is just make their visit better than they expected. Most people expect when they go to get their vehicle worked on that if they have to wait for it, it's going to be like a folding chair and they might have a TV and it's going to be playing news all day and they're going to get thirsty and there's nothing to do in the immediate vicinity. It's an unpleasant experience. At least that's been my experience going through life. Anytime I've had to take my car in someplace, I don't try to wait for it because it sucks. But what I'm noticing is more and more businesses are starting to realize that customers don't tend to drop their vehicle off when they don't have an alternative. Like they don't have somebody to come pick them up, they don't have a second vehicle, they don't have a place to go. Whatever the circumstances are, people don't wait for their vehicle unless they have to. And so, therefore, if you can make their stay pleasant, almost enjoyable, that might be something they'll talk about. I got a 55-inch TV in our waiting room, a couple of comfortable sofas, phone charger, universal phone charger cords at each seat. We have a coffee bar, a glass front mini fridge stocked with soft drinks, and a little snack box, the kind that, well, now I think it's $1.25 per snack. And we don't ask the customers to pay for their snacks. We just include that, as kind of a thing. We also have YouTube TV, Netflix, um, whatever all the streaming stuff is that we have at the shop. And if a customer's got to come in for a complete and get their car tinted, we'll give them a remote, tell them to make themselves comfortable, watch whatever they like, let them know the things that are available. And, we let them know about the phone chargers and, the snacks and beverages while they wait. And yeah, so it's very effective. People talk about us. Another thing that we did in the very beginning to get people talking about us, and boy, did it work. And I'm not even sure why we don't still try to do this. We stopped doing it because we were busy and we didn't need to do it anymore. But every now and again, somebody will still mention it and ask how come we don't do it anymore. And that's a little game we had. I was challenged with a task of figuring out how giving away free product could increase your profitability. And so that's its own kind of like how would I do that? And what we came up with was free tint jobs. And how do you pick a person for a free tint job? We gave everybody an option to pick a number between 1 and 50 because I figured that I could give away out of every 50 tint jobs. It would be fine. Turns out that it seems like a nice rule, but we were giving away about 1 in 25. Didn't make any sense to me, but that's how it was. So we we added some other bowls in the basket too, a couple of 5% off, a couple of 10% offs, 25% off. And that way we just added more balls to the basket to kind of even things out a little bit. Plus, if they grabbed one of those other balls, they'd get a small discount. So it was a lot of fun. And it also gave us some marketing material because every time a customer won a free tint job, we'd take their picture holding their ball and we'd make an ad out of it. And then um, we would use that to advertise and boost another post to get people enticed. And sometimes when people are calling around for tint and you're in the ballpark of the price range, and there's nothing that really sets you apart when a customer calls and asks you for a price and you tell them the price and then let them know also, or it's free, or they have friends saying you need to go here, you could possibly get your tint job for free. It's really, really helpful, especially like I said, when you're new. When we first opened our shop over there across town, nobody knew us. The only thing we did was put ourselves on the map with Google and made a Facebook page and started giving away free tint jobs. And it was not that many tint jobs. So that was that was most beneficial. So yeah. Shady says that he's super friendly when it comes to work. And how do you say your name from Fiji? Is it Altif? Altaf? Or am I way off the mark? Customer said he'd be here in 20 minutes an hour ago to pick up this last one. Hey, that happens. That's part of it. We offer a discount last week, and man, we got so many cheap ass leads, 90% of which didn't even want to answer the phone on a follow up. Follow up phone calls, I find, don't work. In today's society, people typically don't answer their phone if they don't recognize the number. And just because they've called me recently, you know, somebody may have called me or I may have called somebody. And when they call back, their number's still not programmed in my phone. Now, my phone has a neat little feature and it does, I don't know, positive ID or whatever. So if there's a name associated with the phone number, I get the name. And sometimes it matches and sometimes it doesn't. So that might be helpful. With our shop phone, it doesn't matter, but we pay people to answer the phone. So when the phone rings, we try not to miss it. That's very important. Most of the time, and I understand if you're a solo flyer and you don't have somebody answering the phone and you got your hands full and you're tinting windows and you can't answer the phone, it is what it is. But most of the time, if a customer calls to get a price on window tint, unless they're calling you specifically because they want you to tint their car, if you don't answer the phone, they move on to the next guy. And if the next guy is a decent closer, they're going to book the job and they've got no reason to answer your call back either. As far as the leads go, I don't. We found that text communication seems to be the way to go because then people don't feel obligated to anything. They can read the text. And the problem with that is, what do you put in a text if you're doing like a contact or a lead form? Hi, this is so and so from Tent Squad, and we're wanting to let you know that you can give us a call, or do you handle the whole thing via text? So personally, I prefer the phone call method. It's a little more personable, and then you can feel the customer out. It's so hard to feel a customer out or build a relationship via text. Sometimes it's hard to keep a relationship via text. How many of you guys have ever, you know, messaged your significant other and the wording of it did not come across right to them? And next thing you know, you're arguing about something or even fighting about something that wasn't even meant that way. There's no emotion. There's no, I don't know what the word is for it, but via text, it's pretty black and white. It's basic. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it works for some. But again, the thing that I found that works the most for me is giving your customer something to talk about, period. And just grumpy young man. What's up? I'm late. I was live trying to test out Restream. out in the garage, it still sucks. Yeah, you might have to run you a hardwire out there, um, Tim. That's just kinda how that works. Hey, this is Jordan with Luxury Window Tinting, reaching out in regards to a lead form and proposal we had sent you. If you have any questions or concern, send us a text back. Have a wonderful day. I don't even I don't know. I also got to accept the fact that I'm starting to get older, and so I'm becoming my parents. But honestly, I don't even know if I'd read that all the way through. I just, you know, now if I went on your website and filled out a lead form and you texted me back, that'd probably be a different, because I'd be expecting it. So I guess that's subjective, but I don't know. Personally, I like, hey, this is Tint Guy, call me back. I don't know. When I have to reach out to customers because there's something wrong with their order or whatever the case is, they almost never answer the phone. Every now and again, we get lucky and we call an actual shop where somebody answers the phone. The problem with that is they have no idea what we're talking about because it's usually a tinner in the back that was placing the order. What we found works really well is to let them know that there was a problem with their order, so we get straight to the point. So I guess the question for you, Jay, is are you reaching out to somebody who is asking for a quote, or looking at your average text, it looks like you're reaching out to somebody who's already got a proposal or a quote from you? And those are going to be a lot like cold calling. There's going to be a lot of rejection in that because chances are if they haven't called you back, and this is just, odds are if they haven't called you back, they've already found someplace else to go, or they've changed their mind, or when they reached out originally, they were just price shopping, like they weren't ready. It's going to be rare, although it does happen. It's going to be rare that somebody's going to be like, "Oh, I'm so glad you reached out because I couldn't remember your phone number or the name of your company. I wanted to go with you, or maybe somebody is still on the fence. Um, but I don't know the circumstances around your reasoning for texting out to a prospect, so it's kind of hard to say where that, what would be the better solution. Me personally, I like to text customers when it's time to pick up their vehicle. Again, just like what I do with customers here. When there's a situation with their order, I can be specific and to the point, and we have a set closing time. So for us, if we're waiting for a customer to pick up their vehicle, we just remind them that we close promptly at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever, the day is. And then, you know, hope to see you before then. And that usually gives the customer a sense of urgency that they need to be there to pick up their vehicle at that time. But as far as drumming up business via text, I got zero experience with that. My imagination doesn't even suggest to me how it could work. Although maybe there's people that do know how it can work, and chime in, let us know, because inquiring minds do want to know. It does seem like there's got to be a better way, because just sitting there waiting for the phone to ring when it's not ringing, it makes you feel really kind of helpless. But again, back to that boosting posts on Facebook or running Google ads, what's up, Vernon? Um it it puts your ad and your pitch out in front of so many more people, and you don't even get to experience the rejections. for me, I hate rejection. I don't want to cold call people because when I cold call people and they say no, it discourages me. And the more no's I get, the more discouraged I get. And the more discouraged I get, the less I want to do that. So letting an advertising budget work for me works better because I can go through 1,000 no's and get 2 or 3 yeses, and I don't know about those 1,000 no's. I just know the phone started ringing. So there's that. Imagine even returning a missed call and they don't even remember they called you. And I hate texting with customers too. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I get that a lot here, but we've gotten that our share at the tent shop too. Somebody call and um, sometimes it's hard to, if you're on another line and the customer's talking, you can't get a word in edgewise and you don't get to the call, and then you try to call them back and they either don't answer or play dumb, like nobody called you, and it's like, but someone did. Don't get there, and I'll lock it up till the next day. Yeah, we make that pretty clear in our text to let people, and we also, when you have a verbal conversation, we also have the opportunity to ask people if it's okay to text them, because oddly enough there's still enough of the population that don't like text messaging, which I don't know. I mean, my sidekick is sick, he's at home. He messaged me last night and said, "Things ain't well. I got the chills and I think I got a fever and I'm not feeling well and I don't think I'm going to be in tomorrow." It sounds to me like he was planning a vacation, but it's way too far from the weekend for it to be a long weekend, or at least I hope it's too far to be a long weekend. I hope he's just sick for today and he'll be back tomorrow. I don't know. So yeah, I love how much you give them a price and they call you back about 3 minutes later, not knowing they already called us. Yeah, and that, honestly, you got things like Yelp, and there's a bunch of other shit on there that'll have your information trying to draw people to their website, but you can actually show up in a Google search a few times and not even mean to, and people do that all the time. And it's nice because you can weed those people out and know that they're price shopping. So that's good for you if you're the cheapest guy in town. But if you're not, you can know to probably disregard those because they're just looking for the cheapest price anyways. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what else? Is anybody else busy? Like busy? I saw I saw Cameron post the other day with tent scraps all over his shop, talking about how nice it is finally. Has things stayed busy like that? I think I'm the cheapest that does good work. I think it's time to raise prices. That's another thanks, Tim, because that's something I read recently is somebody was made a post about one of the tent brands raising prices 4% and was asking if anybody is raising their prices this year. So let's talk about that for a minute. Because immediately that tells me that if you're not raising your prices every year, one thing you do have to understand is if you're not raising your price every year, you're taking a pay cut every year. And I do understand that, if you made $100,000 last year and you don't raise your prices this year, you're still going to make $100,000 this year. Okay, fantastic. Um, but inflation happens, and when inflation happens, your money isn't worth as much. So $100,000 is not the same $100,000 as it was last year. And we all went through a pretty solid beating with inflation last year. And we saw how all of a sudden it just hurts to spend money anywhere. And that's the reality of it. Usually it's not that extreme. I think that was just residuals from I think that was just residuals from um the COVID money and stuff catching up to us. So I think that things are going to get back a little bit to normal sized inflation, but the hurt's already there. So the only real way to recover for it is to keep up with it. And that's why last year inflation didn't really skip any industries. Everybody's prices went up. And if every year you keep your prices going up incrementally, one, for the most part, people aren't going to notice. And two, you're not going to have less money to spend because inflation's outrunning your budget. So it's very important to pay attention from a business perspective. It's very important to pay attention to what's going on around you because, well, I mean, it took me a lot of years to realize this because 30 years ago, the amount of money that's in my pocket, I would think that I was rich. But nowadays, you go out to dinner and take four people out to dinner and it's $100, easy. And that's at Big Boy getting the buffet. It doesn't make any sense. So if it cost me $100 for four of us to go out to dinner, but yet 5 years ago, four of us could go out for $50. And in that 5 years, I haven't raised my prices because I think I'm making good money. Then I'm fooling myself. And then I'm starting to struggle in life. And I don't know about you guys, but I do like to have a car payment that I can afford. I do like to have a cell phone that I can pay for. I like to have a little bit of money in the bank in case something happens. I like to be able to go out to dinner if we don't feel like cooking. I like to be able to order Grubhub, if necessary. But the reality is, money doesn't go as far as it used to. So raising prices every year is critical. Otherwise, if you wait too long and you realize that you don't have any money because shit's just so damn expensive and you have to raise the prices, the amount that you have to raise is going to be noticeable to everybody that calls. And you're going to notice a shift in your business. Now, most of the time when you raise your prices too high, you just get a different group of people calling. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be a seamless transition to a different class of customer. It's going to be a bumpy transition. So car payments used to not touch a G neither. That is true. Freaking car payments over $1,000. I bought my house back in '08. My house payment, I got a 4-bedroom, bath and a half, tri-level with a basement, and it's under $1,000 a month. And right now, you can't get a one-bedroom apartment for under $1,000 a month. No, don't get me wrong, that was 15 years ago that I bought that, but that's what inflation does, and over that 15 years, if I didn't raise my prices, then I'd be selling complete tint jobs for $165. Instead, I don't even think I'm keeping up. Maybe I am. I don't know, but we're about 300 for a complete tint job. And then we have upsell options too with carbon and ceramic, so we can get all the way up to like 450, 470, something like that. I don't know. No, what's up, Mr. Chansky? And dinner at McDonald's, quick 50 bucks? Yes, absolutely. It's crazy. I remember going to Taco Bell back when back when we were still poor, and I guess we're still poor, but back when it seemed more poor because we had three kids in the house to feed. One of them was already multiplying, and um, I don't remember how many mouths we fed, but there was a bunch of us, and we went to Taco Bell and got a great big sack of food for 20 bucks, and everybody ate. It was fantastic. I think there were 7 of us. You can't feed 2 for $20 anymore. It's unheard of. The house I live in now bought for 180, value 220. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And Jim, he lives in an old shoe. Smart. Although shoes have gotten expensive too. I remember when you could go buy a comfortable pair of Skechers for 20 bucks. Like now a cheap pair of shoes is 100. I remember like I'm never paying $100 for a pair of shoes. That's crazy. Oh, my film is the best. I know. I heard what your company's been trying to do to you guys about film choices, and I'm not trying to laugh at you because I mean I get trying to save a couple dollars, but the reality is what they're buying over there. Say it. Let's pretend it's $20 a roll cheaper, which I don't think it is, but let's just pretend that it is. And if it's $20 a roll cheaper and you can get 10 cars out of a 40-inch roll, you're saving $2 a car. But if it takes you twice as long to tint the car, what are you saving? Especially when you got a bay that you want to make at least $100 an hour out of. Like if it costs you an hour and a half in time to use that film to save $2, but you lose, say, $150 on the time that you spend in the bay, I don't, I don't think it's good. So there's that for sure. But I don't know. Yes, in case I haven't told you guys, Helios window film. It's a game changer. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good films out there. There just is. But I wouldn't trade my lineup for anybody. Nobody has a better lineup than mine. And I do that by design. I that's the neat thing about, a lot of Reeboxers, if you will, um, they'll go to one manufacturer and use their film. And the problem with that is I'm sure you guys have used many different brands of film and you're like, well, I like this line, but that line sucks, and so on and so forth. It's a pretty common thing. And it's been that way my whole career. Well, the neat thing about me is I'll go to a couple of different manufacturers and have them give me the films that I like out of their stuff, and I'm not interested. And I'm not going to purchase your other films because I don't like them. Simple as that. And or maybe I do like them, but the uh the other company has something I like better. And it's got nothing to do with price when I shop, and I price my products fair. In fact, you're going to get a better product for less because I'm trying to stay marketable and profitable for you guys. And my reality is I'm not a businessman. I'm a window tinner. So what I think's good is good and it pays the bills. So I don't need to get rich. Although sometimes it'd be nice. I hear about the profit margins on some of these companies and the films that they're using, and I know about some of the films that they're using and how much they're paying for them versus how much they're selling their film for, and it makes me scratch my head, and the reality is I don't have enough cheerleaders out there saying, "We use Helios. Have you tried Helios? Helios is great." And I just like I said, I'm a window tinner. I'm not a marketing expert. I don't know that stuff. Cameron says he doesn't price shop when he buys film. I never did either. I don't know. I've always been the kind of person that, I knew the price ballpark, but I never really, I didn't I didn't pinch pennies when it came to film. For me, it was all about efficiency, and not just efficiency in tinting the car. That's huge because my time is money and there's only so many hours in a day, and I don't want to be open for all of them trying to get as much money as I can. So I need to be as efficient as possible when I'm tinting, but also what's shipping like, and what's the service like, and if I have a problem or I have a question, can I call and is somebody going to be able to help me with that? And there's a couple of companies out there that have put pieces in place that are sales reps that will be able to answer questions if they're not too busy. But all those companies also push numbers, so those sales reps are super super busy, and they don't sometimes have time to spend on the phone trying to help you troubleshoot your situation. So that can also get feeling like you're left hanging out to dry. And then you might go to Facebook and ask a question. But, let's face it, Facebook's not a super nice place. So even though typically when you ask a question, no matter how stupid somebody thinks it is, you're going to find somebody that takes the time to answer the question and tries to help you out. It's hard to deal with all the idiots that want to make you feel bad for having to ask the question. And that's tough, so I try to avoid that. The only time I suggest any of my customers call or go on Facebook and ask is if I honestly don't know. And the good news is I've been doing this for, I don't know, about 35 years. And I have faced a lot of the struggles that you guys have faced, or struggles that you guys have yet to face. And I've managed to figure out how to solve most of them. Although we are going into new times, so we'll see. But tinners need to hold the price. The race to the bottom will be your doom. It is too. It's how many of you guys can relate to this? You have those customers, those customers that are just the problem customer, and you find out that, or you come to realize that those problem customers are typically the ones you gave a discount to or gave a deal to just to get them in the door. They seem to be the worst. The customers that spend the most with me are usually the least problematic. I'm not sure why that is, because in my mind, I feel like the more I spend on something, the more I care if it didn't cost me that much. What someone once told me was that it's more to do with not how much money it is, but how much it is to that person. So if I got a customer calling, oh, is that the best price you can do? Man, I got a couple of buddies. We'll all bring our cars up there if you can give me a little bit better deal. And that guy, the reality is he's got a car that he probably can't afford, and he really can't afford a tint job. He just wants one. And so even if you knock $20 or $30 off the price, say I'm $279 for a complete, and he's like, man, can you do it for $250? What that tells me is that person, $250 is a lot of fucking money to that person, which is fine. But chances are that's a customer I'm going to have problems with, because when he picks it up, he's going to walk around the car. He's going to be like, what is this? This wasn't here when I dropped it off. Because now he wants some of that money back without asking for any of that money back. And I'm sure you guys have ran into those people also. So it's sometimes it's not worth it. The money spent on film is showing that it's going to last. Typically. Yeah, typically it is. There's there's a fine line. I mean, I'm underpriced for what I sell, so but then again, the prices I charge are up there with anybody else's lifetime warranty films that are going to last. It just is. But what I put in the box versus what I could put in the box, yeah, I could make much larger profit on the film that I use, but my customers love the film. When they get the film, they're like, what is that? This is crazy. Like, how can film be this easy to work with? And it can, because it is. I don't know. There's a lot of films out there and a lot of manufacturing processes, and everybody has their preferences. And what I found is something that I really enjoy working with. It's nice to be able to shrink a back window down without touching it. People ask, what kind of card do you use to shrink? I don't use a card to shrink. I use my hand. Well, how do you flatten it out? The film just flattens out. It just does. I don't have to. And there's other films that you have to work to get it to lay down. Both films are good film. Both films are going to last the customer the duration of the ownership of their vehicle. Neither film is going to give you a problem, but one is just a better joy to work with. Then there's clarity. I got some of the most optically clear film out there. It's amazing. But then again, there's a ton of optically clear films. And if I'm being honest with you, you can take one of those companies, and I ain't going to throw a name out there, but I did put my film up to somebody else's film just because I was helping somebody out shrink a Corvette back window, and I used his film, and I found it rather difficult. And it took, I don't know, 30-35 minutes to lay that back window down. And I was like, wow. And so after we got that, and they tinted the doors with the same film, so it's not like I could just put my film on it. It probably wouldn't match. But I'm like, after that, I'm like, I got a roll of film in my car. Can I just grab that and shrink this window down and see if you notice a difference? And so he's like, sure, yeah, whatever. And I go grab it and I shrink it down in about 10-15 minutes. And he was blown away. And he's like, well, what's the color like? And so what's about to happen never crossed my mind. I was genuinely curious how close of a color match it was. Now, the film he was using had a little bluish tinge to it, and mine didn't. But that's not what we noticed. What we noticed was the film that he had been using for years was grainy, and it's a big, big name company. I'm not going to name it because I don't need any cease and desist orders or any of that crap, because everybody's so sue happy these days, and people get their butts hurt. But it just looks so much better than the film that he was using. I didn't even try to, I had known the guy for almost 20 years. I just went over there to help him out. And he ended up switching films because, like, all the things. The biggest thing, though, for him was how easy it shrank and how efficiently it shrank and how it took the heat, and it wasn't a struggle. So Jim says, spit the truth. The broke, busted, and disgusted customers are generally the problems. Well, they do make the day a little bit harder to get through. I'll give you that. Their money still spends, but they are a tougher customer. But going into it, if you know that, they do also help your customer service skills because they try you. They inspect the job with a magnifying glass. That is true. Indeed, the customers who pay the regular price are generally the happiest with your work. 100%. Victor says, preach. And what's this new Pimp Series ceramic Helios film? Angela tells me you sell. So we have a 20% and a 50% of what we're calling Supernova Alpha, and it's a 96% IR rejection, 65% total solar energy rejection. Like I said, we got a 20 and a 50, but the biggest thing is it lets almost nothing through the window. It's amazing. And the clarity's there. It's a good film. And I've been getting asked for it for so long. I finally got a hold of some that I approve of that looks good. I mean, the stuff's not cheap. If you go look at the price, we do sell it in 50-foot rolls, so to kind of ease the pain if you do want to carry it, because it's the kind of thing that you can get, upwards of $1,000 for a complete from a customer. But again, that's also going to boil into, do you have that customer base walking through your door? Because you're probably, depending on where you're at, not going to sell it to the average Joe. Although I will tell you, if you have that to offer, you'll probably sell more of the Supernova, because customers so often don't want to buy the top and they don't want to buy the bottom, so they'll end up buying something in the middle. If you only have one middle, like the Carbon or the Nova, then they'll probably settle on the Nova. But if you got two middles, they might settle on the ceramic and get you even more. So we need that 20%, you say, 50% too. Yeah, because 20% is the most popular shade that we sell, and 50% is about the most popular windshield shade that we sell. So, and we sell them both in 40-inch or 60-inch rolls. And like I said, we'll sell them by 50-foot to cut the cost a little bit on jumping into it. Because let me take a quick peek. Off the top of my head, I don't remember how much it costs. Because I like Cameron, I don't look at prices as much. More like set it and forget it. But for a 40 by 50-foot roll, oops, I keep pushing the button wrong. For a 50-foot roll, 40-inch, you're looking at 342.50. So yeah, it's kind of pricey when you go up to a 40-inch. It's 645. If you go up to a 60-inch by 100, it's 968. So it's like $1,000 roll of film if you're buying a 60-inch rolls. But like I said, if you do have the customer base or can sell it a little bit, you can get 50-foot, which will get you 5 cars um, for 342.50, and you should get, for a standard complete sedan, you should probably get $600 to $700 out of it. So each. Basically, my rule of thumb has always been charge for a car at least what you pay for a 40-inch roll. So this 40-inch roll by 100-foot would be 645. So you'd want to charge 645. And the reason I do that is because on average, you get 10 cars out of, with no mistakes and not a ton of waste, you get an average of 10 cars out of a 40-inch roll. So if you're getting 10 cars, you got 10% into your materials, and that leaves you 90% for your pay, your time, your utilities, your insurance, your blah, blah, blah. And don't forget about that time you spend between cars that you're waiting for customers. When you're a window tinter working for yourself or a shop owner, that bay costs you money whether there's a car in it or not. So all that obviously factors in, and that's what, God, I could get going right now. It just made my mind think about those guys that are like, I can't believe you guys are charging $300 to tint a car. Oh my God, you're ripping people off. And you're tinting out of your mom's garage. So I get it that you don't understand. But if you want to grow up in this and you want to buy a house and make a house payment and have a car payment and put kids through college, you're going to have to think further ahead. You're going to understand there's hidden expenses and things that you don't understand going into this. And I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're running and tinting out of other people's places and you want to charge $100 a car and you want to have 30 or $40 into cost in it, and you think making $60 an hour is cool, just remember there's people that go to a job and don't supply anything and make $50, $60 an hour, and they got no responsibilities other than to punch in on time and punch out at the end of the day. When you're running a business, what happens when you break your arm and you can't tint? Or what happens when you get sick and you have to cancel jobs? What happens then? What happens when you want to take a vacation? It all has to factor in. What happens when you want to hire somebody and you're only charging $100 a car? Well, I don't want to hire nobody. I'm a one-man operation. Well, that's cool. So you don't want to ever do $1 million a year in tint. Is that what you're saying? Because I wanted to do $1 million a year in tint. So we had 5 tinters because that's how you do that. So how does the company make money? Well, you charge enough. You got to think further ahead. And besides that, if you're out there thinking that you're getting ahead making $100 an hour or $100 a car, which might be an hour, think about it like this. Look around you in your city and find somebody in your area that's charging those low prices, that's established and been in business for 5-10 years. And I'm going to wager that you can't do it. And I know some of you guys are probably like, well, I know a guy, and let me guess, he's tinting out of his mom's garage, or he doesn't even have a garage to tint out of. Or maybe he's tinting out of his own garage and he does make his house payment and he thinks he's doing wonderful. Again, no foundation. Tell him to go to the bank and ask the bank for $100,000 loan and see what happens. Because I'm guessing he doesn't file taxes either. He probably doesn't have insurance on his business. So one wrong move. My son broke a $6,000 Italian windshield. Costed me $100. Had to import the windshield from Italy. That was ridiculous. I never imagined a piece of glass could cost so much. But I had insurance. Do I use it? Not usually. I'm pretty sure that was the only claim I've ever made. But I have it because it's necessary. It's a part of expense. Imagine what happens if I'm tinting out of my garage charging $100 a car and this guy brings his Italian car in here and I go to touch, and he did it tucking the dash towel down in the dash, and it was just really tight over in the corner, and he shoved his thing down there and it went pop. Real simple, real quick. It wasn't anything like he wasn't being careless. It just happened. So I'm tinting out of my garage. I got no insurance. I got no overhead. I think $100 a car or even $150 a car. I think it's fabulous because I'm making $2,000 a week and I'm doing good. I'm making $100,000 a year. Screw you guys. But I just busted a $6,000 windshield. What do I do? That's a tough one. Or you can think of it like a business person and understand that there's going to be hidden expenses and things that sneak up on you and all those other things that you might want and didn't think about. And so it's important. It really is. It's truly important not to race to zero. Because I'll tell you, we've had 2 different shops within a half a mile of my shop that, and like I said, we're almost $300 for dyed film on a 4-door sedan. And we've had shops come in doing sets of doors for $50 and $150 completes. One of them lasted 6 months, and both brick and mortar too, not nobody's houses. They moved into a place, got cheap rent, and thought they were going to do this, and thought that other places were. In fact, that was some of the bad mouthing that they would do to places like mine is, I can't believe they're charging that much. They're ripping you off. Let me do it. Neither one of them are still there. I've been there since 2015. So in that building, we've been there, I guess, going on 9 years now. And we've had two come and goes that thought that they had a better business model than us because they weren't going to rip off the customers. So think about that when you're pricing. And when it comes time to think about it, and this is the time, right now is the time. We're about to come into tax time. You're about to get busier than you probably have enough time to deal with. Now is the time to raise the prices. And I'll tell you one little trick that we used, and we don't use it anymore. We just raise the price and it is what it is. Come or don't come. You know, we know who we are. We get talked about an awful lot in town. We're pretty well established, but if you're still trying to drum up business and get people to come in and you're worried about raising your price, what we would do is every year we raise our price $10 across the board. And we would call, or a customer would call and ask how much. We'd tell them the new price and then tell them, but we'll give you a $10 discount if you bring cash. So it kind of suggests that, processing charges, will save you $10 if you bring cash. You'd be amazed how many people would come in with their car and be like, is there an ATM nearby? And we'd tell them this over the phone. They just forget. But what they would do to save $10. So one, that makes you cash heavy if you need to be cash heavy for a reason. But two, it gives the customer an option to have the old price if it is going to sticker shock them. Most customers are like, yeah, whatever. No, it's fine. Here's my card. And then when you decide that you're done with this whole sale that you're doing, you just stop offering it. And your new price is already established because you've said it over and over and over again. And in your head, it's just your price. And then next year, you do the same thing over again. Break a $6,000 windshield. I guess you will be doing the next 60 cars at $100 pro bono. Yeah, that's what it boils down to, and that was just one incident. Like I said, we don't typically have incidents like that, but you do have incidents where customer comes in and says this is happening or that's happening, or you have to make a decision knowing full well that it's not your problem, but it might be a couple $100 fix, and I'm trying to think of a situation. I can't really think of a situation. I document things really, really well with customers' cars prior to tinting them, and I always make sure I got untinted windows in the picture so that, along with the timestamp on the picture, it's obvious I haven't tinted your car yet, and that problem is there. Preferably out in the parking lot, but I don't always get the option to do it out in the parking lot. But I did sub for this one shop that I tinted a rear half on a customer's car. And that was all it was there for, is just the rear half. So we did the rear half, and then the customer calls back and says, there's a crack in my windshield. Like, what are you talking about? Bring it down. Let's have a look. We didn't even, the only thing anybody was in your front seat for was to pull the vehicle in and pull it back out. We just did the back half. And the customer was throwing such a pissy fit. The question became, do we spend $200 and get this guy a new windshield? Or do we tell him to kick rocks and just take a chance that he's just going to make a big fuss and tell everybody he knows and, bad reviews and all that stuff? Is it worth it? So we bought the guy a windshield. Made sure the guy understood we did not do this, but in the spirit of making a customer happy, here you go. And never bit him in the ass. Now that one pissed me right off because I was the tinner in the situation. So I knew I didn't put a stone chip in a customer's fucking windshield, but whatever. And but the customer was tickled, and it was what it was. Oh, I got another one. Jeep Grand Cherokee did a set of doors, and this was my deal. And this was my deal. And the window did break on me. It was the door, and there was something fucked up with the regulator. I didn't know it. You know, the guy just bought the thing, brought it in for a set of fronts. So I did the driver window was fine, went over to the passenger window, and when I rolled it up, hold on a second. Goodness gracious. But anyway, so yeah, I rolled the window up to squeegee out the bottom, and as soon as it hits the top, it goes crack and a little line comes out of the side of it. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so I called Mary in the back and I'm like, so this just happened. And I called over to the glass shop across town, asked him how much for the window, explained to him what happened and everything. And he told me, and then I asked him, um, do you do mobile work? And he says, yes. And I says, okay, well, I'm not sure what the situation is. When are you available? He gave me a couple of options and options at his own shop too. And then I went up to the customer to let the customer know what happened. And the reason I did all that is because, well, you don't go to a customer with a problem if you don't have a solution, because it's really hard to calm a customer down. And that's exactly what happened. I went to tell the customer and he flipped his lid. He just went ballistic. Now I understand his perspective, but I also know that I didn't do anything to that window. I just pushed the up button and it cracked. But it was in my shop and it was my problem. So I told the customer what had happened, and he I told him that I already called the glass shop. I'm going to take care of the cost of the repairs and everything. And here's our options for getting it repaired. He can either come to you at your work or whatever. You could take it to them for an appointment, or you can bring it back here and they can come in here and take care of it. And he opted to have it done in my shop. So then the guy comes into my shop to redo it on his appointment day. And when he comes into my shop, he takes it apart and he's like, hey, check this out. This is all screwed up right here with the this is all screwed up with the regulator, and I think that's what caused this. And I'm like, well, some bitch. And now realistically, my only obligation is to replace the regulator, or I mean the window, and tin it and send him on his way. But I went and grabbed the customer, and I had the glass guy tell the customer that. And um, so the glass guy ended up selling a regulator to the guy also. I still covered the window. And that customer not only brought back every, that was years ago. That was shortly after we opened. And he's not only brought me every one of his cars that he's bought since then, all of his family's cars, and any friend that he's ever had ask about window tint has come to me. And there's probably 20, 25 cars from that guy in that scenario along the way. Never questioned my integrity after that, never questioned price, just flat knew he had a place to go. So those are the kind of things that, you got to ask yourself. Now, I knew that I didn't break that window, and I understand that it was in my care, but I would have done it anyways. Whatever came of that stone chip in the other car, I don't know. But it is after 5, and I'm getting yelled at because apparently I got family obligations that I'm not aware of, and so I have to call back and find out about those, because whatever. But um good talk, guys. I really enjoyed it. And by the way, next week I should be announcing some new products, so that'll be fun too. So I will see you next week. Until then, peace.